Is your gut really healthy? Yes. And the only way I can explain it is to tell you a story or through a story. But before I do that, just so that you get context of who I am and what I do, I started a very tiny little organic and health food shop about 9 years ago. And the purpose of that was to get an alternative food supply going in Johannesburg, which was free or as free as it could possibly be of pesticides, of colorants, of emulsifiers and fillers, and also those components. I'm going to call them components because our food is made in a factory, and we don't actually know what's in our food. So the idea was to, along with all the other modalities, and it's not just about food, but food definitely supports what you do in your life. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. We've got 2 stores. They're massive. I don't know how they got so big, but it's a 1,000 square meter store. It's like a one-stop shop for almost everything that you need in terms of health and clean food. One of the most important things we do is we only buy from small farmers, producers. We don't buy any big foods. We make sure that we uplift communities, we uplift people, and we do what no one else does in retail, and that's give shelf space to the small guy so that he has a crack at launching his product and doing well. So that's my quick introduction. I'm going to then tell you something even more horrific. About 25 years ago, I was running 4 international fast food drive-thrus. And I did that for some reason. It felt right at the time. But as I went through this journey of fast food and eating it every single day, just to sustain my energy, I ended up in a very bad, dark place. There is still no doctor or functional medical person that has diagnosed what I had. But I'll give you an idea of what went wrong. And it didn't happen overnight. It just happened gradually. And as you know, international fast food is packed with pesticides and glyphosate, if you know what that is. It's a poison, literally a poison that they put on food to preserve it. And it's very, a burger in Russia and a burger in Johannesburg exactly the same. So to pull that off, you've literally got to preserve the hell out of the food, and you've got to put stuff in the food. So I started slowly getting a lack of energy fatigue. It then manifested into eczema. I started getting eczema of my body. I then ended up all of a sudden feeling that I had high blood pressure, like fainty and dizzy. Went on tabs. Every time I came up with a symptom, took a cream, took a tab, took a cortisol. And so I went on. My cholesterol reading was 14, and you don't get medical insurance anything over 5. So that was pretty scary. But I think the worst part was my brain was shutting down. I literally felt my brain packing itself up. And I got to a place where I couldn't remember people's names. I couldn't even read a financial statement. I was hell of a forgetful, and I probably was a terrible person at the time. I didn't connect with anything. I felt numb, absolutely numb. I probably went into a deep depression. I tried those pills too, and that didn't work. And at one stage, when I was really bad, my bathroom had 30 tablets, and it wasn't great. So I started reading. That's the one thing I could still do, and researching and finding out for myself what was possibly wrong with myself. So the next thing that happened was I started learning about soil, because I thought everything starts and ends in the earth. So that made a whole bunch of sense to me, and I started studying soil and what is it that makes a seed grow in soil with a little bit of sun and a little bit of water, and what's actually going on in the soil. And I'm no expert, but what I did find out was that there are trillions and trillions and trillions of microbiomes that are operating in the earth. There are fungi that are connecting. There's root systems. It's a whole new world underneath the soil. Trees talk to each other. Plants help each other. So if there's a dying tree on this side, the healthy tree will get nutrients or supplements or whatever across to that tree, and it keeps the orchard in balance. So that was fascinating. And then I thought, well, I've done my little bit of studying and reading up on soil. Let me try finding out a little bit more about humans. And I picked up the right book at Exclusive Books. It was a blessing. It was about the gut. It was about the stomach and what goes on in here. And it's fascinating. I didn't know that 70%, that's 70%, 70, of your immunity, your body's immunity is right here. This isn't even a A4 piece of paper. It's all happening inside. And in there, much like the soil, there are trillions and trillions of microbiomes and bacterias, and there's like a symphony. It's like an amazing village. Well, you hope it's an amazing village in there. And they're all talking to each other, and they all love each other, and it's just absolute harmony in a healthy stomach. And that spreads to the rest of your body. And if you can get your gut right, there's a damn good chance, a very, very good chance, that you're going to dodge chronic sickness and illness. And if you don't practice and look after what's going on in your stomach and feed your stomach the right stuff, then you will live until you die not having lived, if that makes any sense. You've got to get them. You're put on this planet to do stuff, whatever that is. And so it is your duty to the universe that you maximize what your body can and can't do and what your brain can and can't do. And, you know, people throw around the phrase, you're only using 10% of your brain. And that scared me because I wasn't a very clever guy, and so I needed a bit more than 10%. I battled at school and university, but I passed, but just. And so I thought, well, if I could claw back another 10%, then I'm looking, twice as bright and as intellectual. So the way I got myself out of the brain fog when I went up to casualty, I tried to get myself booked in. They triage you, red, you've got to go to surgery. Orange and green, and then light green, I think, and then yellow. They kept me on yellow. So I sat in casualty, and I said, look, I'm terrible. I think I'm dying. I really honestly had a death feeling about me. I thought that it was done. It was done. But I also was sad about that at the time because I knew I had something else to give and to do, but I didn't know what it was. So I then started eating clean. And I started feeding my stomach the right stuff. And I gave it a test. You read something, but if it can't work in practice, it's pointless. And so I started eating clean foods, no pesticides, only clean meat, only meat that was grown on pasture out there, like in the caveman times. I drank very clean water, and I did that. It wasn't difficult because I could eat as much as I like, as long as it was clean. And literally within 3 weeks, I saw just a little crack of light. And in 3 months, I'd come a long way. After a year, I was probably in a better place than I'd ever been in my entire life. And I hadn't been consuming drugs. It was just a consistent consuming of good, solid vegetables, and clean meat, but not piles of meat, just, smaller portions. And that did something to me. And so it's my now job to find people who are in that dark place. And that's my calling, is to get people out of that dark hole wherever they are and give them some hope, only through one channel, and there are many channels, and that's through the food channel. And so, yeah, I think, we started with 3 customers a week, and now we're doing 15,000 customers a week. So something's working, and people feel well. You're supposed to eat something and feel well. You're supposed to do something that you intentionally want to do and feel better. So you've got to get yourself to a place of homeostasis or peace and happiness. And it doesn't come for free. It comes with a whole bunch of work. You really have to work at yourself. And you've got to keep asking, am I in the right place? What do I need to do next? What must I learn? How do I need to do X, Y, Z? And you've got to practice it, like anything in life. So the big question that people ask me is, how do I know that my gut is healthy? Well, it's really simple. And I did go to lots and lots of practitioners, and I dropped 5,000 Rand a time. And yet the answer was in my own house. And literally, if you do not, or if you do doubt whether you're ill or about to get ill, or if you did something yesterday that you shouldn't have done today, your answer is actually in the toilet. It really is. And so you've got my phone, but you take your phone in the toilet, not to get good Wi-Fi, because most people put the router near the Wi-Fi because they want to get, the max. Yes, it's okay to chill in the toilet with your router, but when you eventually have your poo, you got to have a look. You have to have a look. You got to look at what just came out, because if you don't do that, you will never know whether you're sick or not. And if you go to the game reserve, I challenge you next time, you're going to be looking for animals that are busy making a poo. They always take a look, or they always use their foot and give it a scratch to feel the texture. Animals do this, and humans haven't learned this yet. But your answer's there. And so it's a bit of a pun, but you get yourself a logbook, and you put it on the back of the door, and you write, today I had, and there are 33 different types of poo. I bet you didn't know that. And there's actually a chart. It's been published by a medical, association from diarrhea all the way to thick, black, hard rock. And so you have to get yourself somewhere along the middle. And that middle is fairly dark chocolate, soft serve ice cream. That's what you're working at. And so if I have a pizza, now I've got a whole bunch of other issues happening with me. I found out that I was gluten intolerant and I was allergic to a million things. But as soon as I ate something that I shouldn't have eaten, it was like a mini Vietnam in the toilet. You're not supposed to make a noise, actually. Pooing's got to be like a quiet, serene thing. It just can't be. If it's noisy in there, guys, then it's a problem. And if you're making noises of, there's a problem. Okay? So God gave you this flag to tell you, hey, buddy, there's something wrong. And the way I used to find out, and I learned this from a shepherd in Lesotho, by the way. You were in the middle of nowhere. I got lost, and he took me in for the night and fed me. But I asked him what was the reason for his longevity and his super health. And he told me the toilet story. He says he takes his poos very seriously. And so I did after that. So if I have a pizza, it's terrible. If I have, my body loves kale. If I eat kale and I have butternut, which I love, and maybe a small piece of chicken, must be a pasture-bred outdoor chicken. The next day, no noises from my toilet. It's a quick business. You're not supposed to sit there for hours trying to push something out. It's just, all these things are warnings. So, what do you have to do? Well, hopefully from now on, you're going to take your poo a lot more seriously. People in Joburg don't talk about poo across all cultures. It never gets discussed. At tables, not even in therapy, people just don't go there. But that's where the answer is. It really, really is. And so to illustrate what happened was my son, who's a youngster, he kind of was hearing, he hears me with half an ear. And he hears me babbling on, and he was young at the time. But I was trying to get some finance, and I had the lawyer, I had the bank manager, I had 2 other investors in the room, and we were having dinner. And my son starts pulling my shirt from behind and says, Dad, you got to come have a look. And I'm going like, not now, buddy, not now. And don't make a scene, because these are really important people. I've got to... And he pulled, and Dad, you got to come have a look. You got to come have a look. Come. And you know, my intention when I had my child was to be a good dad. And so I went, and I said, excuse me, and I went. He took me to the toilet. And I thought, no, he's joking. He's obviously, this is crazy. And he asked me to look in the toilet, and I did, and there was nothing there. So I said, are you kidding me? You've pulled me out of that meeting to look at a toilet. He said, Dad, I have to tell you. You know, you often talk about poo. I said, yes, I do. So what do you mean? He said, Dad, I made a ghost poo. So I'm going, what's a ghost poo? And he said, Dad, it plops out. It actually disappears on its own, magically. It doesn't make a noise. I heard a little splash. It was almost like an Olympic diver going into the pool. And it didn't smell, because the toilet really didn't smell at the time. And he said, no, that's a ghost poo. And he said, guess what, Dad? When I wiped, there was nothing there. And so from that moment onwards, it is my life mission to make ghost poos. It seriously is. Because if you don't make ghost poos, and I don't make them often, but boy, when I do, you will hear me screaming and shouting with joy from the toilet. And I will tell my entire family and my dogs. So that means that your body is absorbing the nutrients. If you're just getting rid of waste matter and you're absorbing the good stuff, which is what you pay for, right? Why go to Woolies and buy 1,000 rands worth of food and poo out 800 rands of that poo because your gut's in a bad state? It seriously is a waste of money. Take the leopards and just throw them in the loo and flush the toilet. It does exactly the same thing. It's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be that you waste 20% and you absorb the 80%. And that way you eat less, you spend less on food because you get full quicker. And you will find that your human body is just in a better place. I'm 58 and I'm doing my personal bests when I go running. Now, it's insane. And I came from a bad place. Maybe that's why I didn't do good personal bests. But I don't care. I'll take it. So that's my message, is that you've got to work out what you can and can't eat. But that sounds tough, because you'll be sitting here going, yes, I love hamburgers, or man, I have to have candy floss or fudge. And I'm not saying you don't, but the key to your longevity and your health is simply finding out what you should eat more of to make you feel better. That's the test. Or what you should eat less of. Not never, eat less of. Okay? So I do indulge. 80% of the time I'm good. 20% I just go for it. I pay for it, but I go for it. And over time, I go for it less and less and less and less. And so, what's the major benefit for me? That my cognitive ability goes if I do the diarrhea thing or the constipation thing. So I'm striving for the best brain that I can carry on my body so that I can not only self-actualize but be of service to whoever. Imagine living with a constant hangover. That's kind of how it is. And I know that drinking's not good for you, and I love red wine. If I have 2 glasses of red wine, my poos don't look great, and it doesn't sound great in there. So I know now I must stop that. If I eat too much broccoli, I have the same problem. I don't know what it is about broccoli, but I just have cauliflower or something else. And so it's amazing over time that you can work out how to fuel this amazing gift that you were given. And it's about time we stop mistreating our bodies. And then, once you've got that right, then you go into spiritual, emotional, physical. I lost 20 kilograms by eating like that. 20 kilograms, loads of energy, and it was an absolute life-changing situation. It's very difficult living in the city and living in Johannesburg because our food, I promise you, is packed with so much crap that you will battle to get a ghost poo if you eat factory food. That's just a fact. And this is not a selling pitch. This is a life story that I'm telling you. And so we have these talks once every now and again at Bryanston and our Kyalami store. And we start you on like the basics of health. When you Google something about health, I don't know how you feel, but I get lost because it's really freaky. I hear 16 opinions and I don't know where to go. So toilet's my safety spot. It's my still time. And that's where my answers come. Please, guys, you all have, or you all have had, or you sometimes have the FLS syndrome. And it's sad because you can see it in people's faces. They don't look happy. In my supermarket, I find antidepressant little packs, and I see people taking hardcore high scheduled antidepressants. They take other stuff. Some people even go on cocaine just to feel better. You can just by eating kale. Don't have to have cocaine. But at the end of the day, FLS is a terrible thing. It affects all of us. And we're in trouble. And you have to do something about getting rid of that FLS thing. It's feel like shit. Stop having that syndrome. Okay? You have to know this, because I did not, that you feel like shit. And I felt like such shit. And there's a way out. And so everybody here, you have to know that. There is a way out. And I wish you luck with your ghost poos. Thank you.